Hello, and welcome to the Communications Project for Petty 1010. My topic is petroleum in China, and my name is Jeff Burton. China is the world's most populous country with a fast-growing economy that has led it to be the largest energy consumer and producer in the world. Rapidly increasing energy demand, especially for petroleum and other liquids, has made China influential in world energy markets. In the global scene, China is currently in second place for consumption of oil and first in annual net importation of oil. With being nearly, if not already, at superpower status, driven by a powerhouse economy, it is in need of the fuel to drive it farther. China's main role in the global oil industry is not that of a supplier, but of an importer. Through their exponential economic growth and resulting high oil consumption, they have directly benefited the net exporters throughout the world. On a large scale, it is estimated that China consumes 10.48 million barrels a day, which leads to an estimated 3.8 billion barrels per year, an astonishing consumption rate rivaled only by the United States and the entire European Union. Other estimates show the climate is currently the leading with proven reserves of 25 billion barrels as of January 2015. Their continuing purchases of international reserves and an estimated 4 million barrels per day in production of oil. China's role in the production side of the oil industry should not be taken lightly, despite their massive importation numbers. China's resources, especially their fossil fuels, have caught the eye of the envious allies and businesses alike throughout the past century. Through the past 110 years, China has divided its resources from the businesses and the envious in the interest of border control, resource management, and profit control. During that time, China also collaborated with its closest allies on the production of its resources in the future interest of developing a self-sustained and well-developed petroleum industry currently existing in today's China. The first step toward China's dominant and complete control of their petroleum resources was not a decision by a leader or heads of state. Instead, it was a result of the people of China. The Boxer Rebellion in the autumn of 1900 erupted against foreigners, disrupting the country and the entire Chinese economy, pushing out companies as prominent and controlling as Shell. Such a large company being forced out in the formative years of the oil industry was a large determining factor in China, excluding itself from capitalist interests later in the century, and as a result, authoritarian control of the resources. The Boxer Rebellion, the collapse of the kerosene prices, and a couple of wars drove away investors for a few decades until an empire came back knocking at their door. By the early 1930s, China had well recovered from the damage to the economy from multiple wars and the Boxer Rebellion. At this time, Japan would make the grave mistake of starting a diplomatic and resulting physical Sino-Japanese war with China. For centuries, China's most envious enemy without a doubt was the Japanese Empire. Japan initiated multiple wars and strategic diplomacy, all in the interest of taking China's borders for space and resources, both of which Japan lacked. China's final conflict with Japan was the most costly to date, with millions of casualties sustained during their defense from the empire in the Sino-Chinese War, also known as the World War II. This defense of the resources was the last time any organization or country would attempt to take control of China's resources without explicit and invited consent. Shortly after World War II, specifically in the year of 1949, one of the most pivotal events in China's history occurred: the Chinese Revolution. The revolution would change everything for China, as the outcome would be the world's largest country was no longer a dynasty, but instead a communist-led country, the People's Republic of China. The introduction of communism in China drove a change in their culture, people, foreign relations, and governmental policies and infrastructure. Their change in foreign relations resulted in the isolation aside from communist allied countries for many decades. This isolation and new political ideology gave China their closest ally in history, the Soviet Union. In 1950, China signed an agreement with the Soviet Union called the Sino-Soviet Treaty of Friendship, Alliance, and Mutual Assistance that included a $300 million loan to help China recover from the Sino-Japanese War. Also, the agreement was a declaration of friendship to the world between the two countries and an agreement to assist one another in the development of their countries through communist ideals. This friendship exponentially helped drive the development of China's economy, military, resources, and technology. Through this agreement, China and Russia developed many oil fields and natural resources together, including coal, steel, iron, and many others. During this time, the roots of China's current national oil company, the China National Petroleum Corporation, CNPC, was founded. In 1949, the Fuel Industry Ministry was established to control the market of oil products within the country. In 1952, a subsidiary was formed called the Chief Petroleum Ministry. The Petroleum Ministry was later abolished and replaced by the Ministry of Energy in 1988, and then finally reformed into the China National Petroleum Corporation, CNPC, in 1998. The CNPC has since been the instrumental company in the progression of producing China's petroleum and advancing their investments in foreign reserves. Over the last year, multiple concerns have arisen in the global market, China's economy, and the oil industry, specifically due to China. One of those concerns is that China has been skewing their economic numbers to give the impression that their economy is growing at a much higher rate than it actually is. Another concern, especially within the last year, is that China's ties to all of the energy sectors are continuing to grow and nearly inseparable. The final concern that has come to light in recent months is the concern that China has reached the peak of their oil production capabilities. China's reporting of false economic growth numbers is most evident in the reported growth of 7% in their gross domestic product growth target each year. This growth is very suspicious, as China has reported the same number or higher for the past 25 years consecutively, even during global recessions and when neighboring countries were reporting declining GDP numbers. Additionally, this year China devalued their yuan to increase export and their stock market, while spending big and cutting their interest rates, all in the effort to stimulate their economy. While the yuan devaluation may have been targeted to stimulate their domestic economy, and an annual growth of 7% in their GDP for the past 25 years would have been plenty enough to have a healthy domestic economy. There are many reasons why China would report false numbers and give an artificial face to their economy, but the main reason is to increase their position in the global community. A small panic in the global markets has coincided with this year's yen devaluation. The fear of China's economy not living up to the global market's expectations in the past, in recent months, has been a predominant factor in the decrease of oil prices throughout the past 3 months. China's importance to the oil industry cannot be understated, and before this year could have been considered definitely underappreciated in comparison to the Middle East, Russia, and the United States. The small panic in the global oil markets is also tied to the fact that CNPNC has over 30 international exploration and production projects with operations in Iran, Indonesia, Oman, Peru, Sudan, Niger, Thailand, Venezuela, and many more. The fear is that China has backed many of these projects with a no strings attached pure monetary funding. And with the devaluation of the yuan, some of these projects may fall through, though some of these fears may be unsubstantiated due to the fact of China's nearly limitless supply of funding due to the strength of the oil industry in the political scene of China. Concerns about China's peak oil are also another topic for discussion. Peak oil is the theory that a country or the world will at one point reach the peak production of oil at 1 year and then never be able to reach that production rate again. China's intensive production of their oil reserves throughout the past, the theory of reaching peak is a very real possibility. One key indicator that this may be happening is through an analysis of China's key oil fields. The Daqing field, which accounts for 1 out of 5 barrels of oil China produces, has been on a continuous decline over the past decade. With a stabilization effort set up in 2008 to increase its productivity. Another example is the Changqing field, which has been on a decline curve for the past 2 years and is China's premier natural gas field. There are diverse petroleum resources within China that range from heavy conventional pooled oils, shale oils, very heavy kerogen, and bitumen oil resources. The vast range of basins and fields in China can be seen below. China's premier field, the Daqing, was first produced in 1955 and has been under production ever since. When production of the Daqing field first started, there was an estimated 16 billion barrels of oil in place. As of 2015, the remaining oil in place is estimated to be around 3 billion barrels. The Chinese government has recently made efforts to stabilize the production of the Daqing field, as it is the premier field of all of China. They have even been quoted as saying it is closely related with the destiny of the nation. Other prominent fields include the Changqing field, the Shengli, the Xinjiang, and Lihao fields. The breakdown of their discovery has been over the past 60 years, with most recent discoveries only happening within the past 10 years, such as the Zhongzheng's gas reserves, the Lihao, the Dangang, and the Changqing. While they have been previously discovered, a large portion of oil reserves unknown before were recently found within those oil fields. Though the production capabilities of China are currently limiting the ability to properly produce these fields. Oil is a crucial component in the further growth of China, and with no superior energy alternatives for its transportation and agriculture, Oil will continue to be a predominant factor in the sustained growth of their local and global economy and power. Even with a slower than expected growth rate of China's GDP, economy, and domestic oil production, China will still be at the forefront of importance in the world's oil industry. China's domestic oil future will require its national oil companies to make advances in their unconventional oil technology in order to mirror the West's big oil companies' ability to develop the shales of the United States in recent years. Additionally, China must continue to develop its foreign investments to shore up its domestic production if it ever hopes to fulfill its own thirst for oil.